Well, welcome back again to what I believe is session number 11 here of our 8th grade advanced art project. It's time to, I believe, to start coloring this. So you should have your material that you worked on earlier on your design work and your thinking it out planning. And then after we got all that done, we drew it in, so it looks at least somewhat similar to our concept piece here. And now we're going to continue on with this by coloring it in. Now this should go rather quickly because we've already done the planning work for this, and as a result we should be able to just reference that a lot and simply get it going. Now you're probably familiar that I have a theory about working on artwork, and that is generally my theory is to work from the large areas to the smaller areas, and from the most the biggest acreage to the smallest acreage, if you were, I guess, trying to do yard work. But I believe that helps us get more work done actually at a better pace when we approach it that way. Now, I'm not going to, I can't obviously, I'm not in the physical classroom with you, but if I were, I would be directing you to do that instead of getting all wrapped up in the fine details of, certain areas of your drawing that could take you a very long time to resolve, and then by that time, you've lost a lot of class time, and furthermore, you've also probably worn yourself out emotionally and mentally over a portion of the drawing that is really, just a small bit of the overall drawing. So you can't really get wrapped up in the details really early on. And that's why we waited till the end to do all this. If we would have fought with that at the beginning of the project, it would have caused a lot of suffering and heartache. So that's why we did it at the end. All right, now, so in keeping with my system, I think I'm going to go start filling in some of the large work at the upper deck here, and then work my way downwards until I get to the least amount of material. And in this case, that's going to be, I think I'll start with the sun, which I believe is a yellow-orange color, since that is a color I have a lot of. Now, I've been using a 24 pack, a kit of Crayola pencils for not just this project, but also the 6th and 7th grade project. We don't use colored pencils in that, but also for the design projects. And I have been, I've kept it pretty, I haven't busted off the tip of those pencils a whole lot. Now I am going to go to a slip sheet now that I'm starting to color. I don't want to mess this all up. So I'm going to simply just start working on what I've got from my reference sheet, and try to, where I can, if I've got any design work or any layout work left showing through my coloring, try to address it by coloring right in those grooves. Now you gotta roll your pencil around a lot in your hand when you're doing this type of work, so you get that, keep that pointy little portion, that corner on it. So I'm happy to be coloring in the 11th day of this project. It should take a couple of days to color it in, I would say. It is a 12 by 18 inch piece of paper, so it's not an enormous task to get that colored in. And of course it should be colored opaquely, so it looks, fantastic. Just some thin, weak effort at coloring. A lot of people don't appreciate opacity of the work until they have somebody like come and paint their house or they paint their car, and you can still see the primer through the car paint, or underneath the house paint, and so you're like, I really don't want to see that. And so that's kind of the whole theory about where opacity is important. It's important because even if you're just painting a house, which is an important thing to paint, it should still, be the color that you want, not the color of the paint underneath it, or the primer. In this case, I don't think there's any of this entire drawing here that has white in it, so it's that in itself can be a overwhelming visual experience, but I'm willing to take my chances with it because I think this is a fantastic drawing. So I'm excited to get it colored. My D is showing through there a bit. I didn't erase it completely. Should practice what I preach. So I'm going to just keep coloring now. I may come back to it and perhaps I can scrub it out of there with a tough eraser. I'm starting to run out of colored pencil, so I'm going to have to take a break here and resharpen it, looks like, in just a moment. But you can really get a lot of distance out of, you know, one good sharpening of the colored pencil. It's kind of a myth that you have to continuously sharpen it. You kind of sharpen it by using it a little bit, because just the friction on the paper wears it down. But as you roll it around in your fingertips, you start finding that sharper it makes a little sharp corner on it. Plus, it makes it last longer, so you don't have to sharpen so frequently, which keeps you on the project, which helps you get your work done, and see, it's just a big old cycle of events. Okay, but now the cycle has to be dealt with. So, coloring. I've been working on all the drawing projects and all the classes here. So if you think you're being overwhelmed with art projects, I can relate to that. I'm doing an art project with every class and videoing these sessions. So it takes a lot of time to do it, but I'm happy to be able to get the chance to continue giving my class or presenting my class in much the same manner as it would be presented if you were in the actual physical classroom with us, each other. So, you know, I'm happy that it's almost a duplication of that, although there's no really way to duplicate the experience of being in the actual classroom together. So that really is one of those things that is bothersome about this particular approach. Now, if you're simply doing this as a makeup project, for instance, well then you've still got access to the physical classroom and also, you know, the feedback from your art teacher, which would be me. And so there's there's some benefit to it in that way. I think the whole idea of the blended classroom, which we've been discussing in the education industry for some time, is that you have this blend of these technologies and also of you know, traditional approaches as well. And so okay, so maybe that is how it should work, because this would be a really pretty good approach for the presentation aspect of it all if we were to simply do it this way in the classroom. And it's being then demonstrated directly in front of the student, you know, that what the project should look like and how much time it should actually take in order to do that project on an everyday basis. And so keeping up with the instruction in this case is really good practice at pacing out your work so that it is, you know, eventually done by a due date. And that due date will be coming up here in a few more sessions. So it is important that, you know, serious progress is made in the next few sessions here as we move through this project. Now, you can see perhaps some of my grid lines. If I color right into that grid line, many times it will go away. However, for the presentation of this particular project, I had to bold my lines, and they may show through. If I were making this project not as a presentation, I would not have drawn with such a heavy touch, but it had to be picked up on the camera and also on the projection screen. So with that in mind, I'm going to have to just, you know, accept the fact that that might happen here, but not let that you know, really hurt my appreciation of it as an instructional tool. It's an instructional piece. It's not necessarily my own, you know, art project. It's meant to educate people. Okay, I have worn that poor yellow-orange colored pencil down, but it's coming through on the projection screen here beautifully. You can see the shiny surface of the waxy colored pencil starting to really pop out there. So, you know, it's that's what it's all about, is having such dense color that it saturates your picture. And it's just pure, dense, and the camera picks up the colored pencil has a waxy surface to it when you put it on very, very opaquely, which is my habit. And then that waxy surface reflects off the lighting with the camera and at the drawing table here. So that's what we're seeing is will change, okay, because what we see with our eyes is one perception, but what the camera perceives is completely different. And so then that image goes into the camera and is filtered, and it's then sent to a projector, and that projector then filters it again. You can adjust all the settings on your projectors and your cameras to try to mimic exactly what you think you're seeing, but it will always be affected every time that you process that signal. And so that video signal then goes to the projector, and the projector projects it onto a screen, and the color of the screen and the lighting of the room has a lot to do with that color as well. So human perception of color is a complicated thing, and being able to keep that color exactly the same as you transmit it from one media to the next is tricky. However, I'll tell you that this looks pretty good, and it also looks really quite good on the projection, and I've been getting pretty good saturated color effect on the recording as well. So I think I may have finally dialed in all the settings so that we're getting at least a semblance, a close resemblance of what the actual orange color is in front of me as I sit here at the drawing table and color it in. Okay, so this project has really been, so successful so far. I'm really excited about seeing it completed, and it's going to take some serious work over the next few days to get it completed by the end of the unit. And that end of the unit has to come eventually. It's already there for the 7th graders, I believe. 6th graders are starting to finish up as well. So when we're viewing this video, if everything is staying on the schedule, then that's where everybody should be in the grade levels. But the 8th grade projects are more complicated. The 8th grade projects require more planning and more complex application of the principles. So, hey, that's what you signed up for when you sign up for 8th grade art, is more complex application of the principles. More work is expected from you. Deeper understanding of what we're attempting to do. And what we're attempting to do right now, let's finish out the orb of our sun. So the physical classroom is really a good thing. I appreciate it. I think maybe more than I ever did. Actually, and the interaction that you have, I suppose, with the students and the instructor and the teacher, all of those individuals, that are interacting together, that's how the education is done, not through observing videos, really. Although this is a great substitute if you had to have one. This is also a great supplemental technique to aid the regular physical classroom and the actual physical presentation of the information and, the techniques and demonstration of the principles. However, I will say that there is some value to this type of approach. And so if you had to do distance learning, or we were out for many long months like we kind of have been on this, that's how we are doing this right now, but I'm also keeping video of this to make it available to students who need to catch up on work and stuff. I will be using this information that I've produced here in the classroom, and so it really will, I believe, improve the quality of my instruction, at least. And I'm hoping that people who are doing similar work like I'm doing here will keep a record of what they're doing, and that will really be helpful to future art teachers, I believe. And it's one of those teaching fields where it really is best done face to face in real life. Same with music. I think drama is a lot the same way, having that personal interaction with each other and with the person who is the drama coach or the director of the play. It's very important. So it just kind of sometimes, I guess you just got to color your way through these things. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on here, ladies and gentlemen. We want to just color until we run out of project. And then it's going to be time to sit back and evaluate it and think about what we have been doing. And when we do the grading of it, and that's a whole, here's a video of that as well. So I've videoed almost everything we do in the physical classroom, and made those videos available with links on our Google Classroom that we've set up for Warner Middle School Visual Arts program. And I believe that we are starting to get participation at a little bit higher rate now. People have found their way to it and figured out how to link to the videos, and all of that is helping us to communicate with each other a little bit better. And although it isn't the physical classroom, this is as probably close to a representation of it as you could probably get for this class. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Let's see what we got. That orange is fantastic, super saturated. I hope I can get the rest of my orange in here, although sometimes an entire session can be used up by simply coloring in the large stuff, but it really makes the picture come together faster. And you can already see it developing. I know I can. Let's see, right here, this small patch. Small patch. It's nice. Alright. So, yep, the physical classroom, I miss it. It's kind of quiet at the drawing table here every day. Hours on end, making projects, editing the videos, uploading the videos, all of that. It takes a while, and it's quiet work. Okay, let's kind of dust some of this off here. Let's tell you what, it's starting to look pretty good. I'm wondering if I can dig this out of here. I bet I can. I hope I don't destroy the drawing in the process. Okay, that's if you got a good eraser. You can do these kinds of things. And I've got a pretty good eraser. Let's see if I can retouch that and it doesn't show up as well. Okay, that'll work. That'll work. Now, this large area over here is going to take some time. So in the large areas, I think it's a good idea to roll the pencil around in your hands a lot. And that gives you that little corner on there that you can, it also makes the pencil last longer. Now I'm kind of tilting it at an angle. I've got pretty good control and I can really kind of tell how hard to press down on the pencil. But if you don't have that kind of touch with the pencil, you should probably color more straight down. I also am, because I'm creating a video here, I want people to see what I'm doing. Now when you are coloring, it's important, and drawing as well, and handwriting, which a lot of people neglect to understand. It's important that the moment you make that mark, you can see what you did. And in this case, every time I make a strike mark with this pencil, I can see it, instead of holding it way down here and coloring and then lifting up and everything I've just done is a complete surprise to me. That really shouldn't happen in a good drawing. In a good drawing, you should really have a totally clear idea of what it is that has happened as it is occurring. Boy, I don't like that H up there either. It seemed light enough that I could color over it, but now it's hitting me right in the eye and offending me, so I'm going to have to deal harshly with it. I should have just done it to begin with, but I didn't listen to myself, didn't practice what I preach, and that'll come back to get you too. Okay, let's see what we got here. Clean this up. There we go. Almost completely disappeared. I don't know what is going on right there either. That's a mystery to me right now. So I'm going to try to smudge that out of there and lighten it up a bit. Okay. Well, that should be alright. Seems like we need to sharpen a pencil again. Hope I don't use it all up on this. I need it for my flames eventually. Oh, they're red flames. Maybe they'll be alright. Okay. Man, it's a lot of orange. Okay. Alright, so this is starting to come together here. But I'll tell you what, this is a lot of coloring. And when it's done though, it'll be a fine project. So I hope you're, and here we are toward closing in on the end of the drawing project, and I'm hoping you were able to keep up with the pace of the instruction. And if not, you know, just pause the video and till you catch up with it, instead of trying to, you know, rush through it and you're all lost, don't know what you're doing. Just pause the video till you catch up, or go back and replay it to wherever you're at. So if you kind of listen as it's playing in front of you and you're doing your work, you can always kind of go back and see where you're at on the same, in the same part of the video, you know, at the same time in the video is what I'm saying. Okay, this definitely, I'm wearing it out, but sharpening it, no, not just too frequently. I don't want it to snap the point off and set me back. So let's just keep doing what we're doing. This is very, on the paper, visually to me, this is a very pumpkin colored orange. So it's not quite real orange, it's yellowish orange. So, but on the screen, it's pretty close, it's pretty accurate. So I hope it's coming that way on the camera too. So all of this is really densely colored, and boy is it attractive. It's almost like it was cut out of construction paper and glued on. And see, when you have that, when you go with that kind of random approach to coloring, it scatters the light, and instead of seeing little markings, individual markings, it kind of it shimmers and gives you some of a little bit different effect, because all of these markings, every time you strike the pencil against the paper and you change that direction, see, it does put a bit of a dent in the paper called an embossing, and that's going to change the reflection of the light as well. And furthermore, the way the waxy material from the colored pencil is applied by you know, counter striking and randomly marking, then that also builds up in little micro layers and different thicknesses and intent and directions. And so those little different angles, even though it's happening at, you know, pretty much a microscopic level, they all reflect light slightly differently. And it gives it a little bit of a sparkly effect in direct light, because the waxy stuff in the colored pencil. Now, some colored pencils are very chalky, and they more or less absorb the light, so they have a what we call a matte appearance to them. They don't reflect much. So if you're using those kinds of colored pencils, you will definitely get different effects than the shiny, waxy effect that I'm getting with the Crayola pencils. But I'm pretty satisfied with it, and I'm coloring as fast as I can color and still get good results. So, I mean, that's how it's got to be. I'm going to lift this up. Hope it's not too high risk. If I can get it off the paper, I'd be thrilled to death. There we go. And color that corner in. Gotta be careful when you're working on the corners. I just folded my corner, but I didn't curse. But I could have if I didn't have such self-control. Okay, let's stick it down. Okay. Now we're down here. This is the last little bit of the orange for a while. We'll start maybe going over to the gray. There's a color that we haven't used much of, or maybe even the violet, because I've got the mountains are probably the next largest single color objects to get in there. Now I'm starting to wear that orange down to where it's scratching my artwork, so if that happens, you've got to either resharpen the pencil or just change your kind of angle of attack on it so that you get more of the waxy part of the pencil in contact with the paper than the wood. Alright, here we go. I'm just going to go back and address anything I see with opacity that's not quite right. But I'm not seeing much there because I try to get it opaque as I go. So I'm able to take a good look at it like this. Alright, well, let's see what we got. That looks pretty good. I'm impressed with that. So I'll put my yellow orange away for a moment. Look at my design piece, and it looks like I'll have to go with violet or green next. I might just go with the green. That's a pretty large part of the drawing. And so let's find that. It's more of that real deep green, which I seem to have quite a bit of here. So that was a good choice. And it's already sharpened a bit, so I'm not going to waste that point or any of that colored pencil stuff. I'm going to just start coloring my green mountain. This little small area over here is a good place to start. So by now, I'm hoping everybody's got some strong hands after the first unit, coloring in that design project from the first unit. You should have really worked the muscles and tendons of your hand to get that project done. I know I did, but I've been doing this a little while, so it doesn't affect me quite at the same level as everybody else. But I'm also, you know, aging adult, and so sometimes a lot of coloring or a lot of any activity like this, it can wear you down. But so I'm sure there's people out there that have got, you know, writer's cramp or coloring cramps or from all of this, and have to put it down. That's why we kind of only do this about, you know, 38 to 40 minutes at a time. I don't know that it could really, you know, for middle schoolers at least, I just don't see middle schoolers being able to keep at this kind of work for more than that. length of time. And if you are able to just keep up with that production rate for 38 to 40 minutes a day, well, then that's how long it takes to get these projects done, and that's pretty good. I know a lot of adults can't get a project like this done in 10 or 11 days. So as far as the production part goes, we spent a day drawing it in on our design piece. We drew it in for a day. The next day we colored it in, and then the third day we started laying out our paper and drawing. So really, if we were to take, we've only been on this, if this is day 10, this is only the 8th actual day of making the drawing. So that's not too bad, really. That means it's doable, and it also means that it's a reasonable class project as well. It's accessible to people, and this type of direct instruction is also accessible to people as well. So we're just going to keep at it. Until we get it done. Which I think, though, based on the amount of work I've got done just in one coloring session here, might only be a couple more days. And this green is rich, I'll tell you. Let's see how it's coming up on the... Yeah, it's showing as a little bit more yellow on the projection screen. However, it's still attractive either way. And I was working with the point of the pencil is actually already broken a little bit, so I've been trying to keep it going there through careful use and rotating it just slightly periodically, so don't stress the lead and have to resharpen it. But it was giving me some fits in the last time I used it, so there is some issues with it. Alright. It's just with the pencil. It's not with the brand. It's just it's probably got dropped or something, or was somehow slightly abused, and that has led it to be kind of a pencil that's a little bit difficult to... Okay. Yeah, that's looking nice. That looks like an actual mountain back there now. So, yeah, this is a 8th grade art project. Now this is a variation of the 6th grade project, but if you were in my 6th grade class, you might remember all we did was put a checkerboard background into the artwork there. In this one, that's why when I created the worksheet, our planning sheet, that's why I put the car in the lower right hand corner, so that you had really a lot of room on that worksheet to really come up with a good idea or a theme, and then start working the ideas out for that. And then once we enlarged it here, it's become quite impressive. Okay, it's time to sharpen the green pencil. We'll take that away there so you can take a good look at it while I'm off camera here sharpening. Okay, this time I don't want to get it too... I don't want to get too greedy. This pencil's been giving me some trouble. Let's see. Ooh, it looks pretty good. I think I may have gotten past the part of it that was all snapping off. Okay, back to work. It's like a pit stop in a car race, You can only really be in there for a short period of time, and you end up losing your momentum. Oh, you guys just got it sharpened up just in enough time for the bell to ring at the end of the period here, at the end of the session. So I'm going to keep coloring anyway for a little bit more, and I'll pick this back up tomorrow, but I think this has been a really successful project so far, and this particular session has been particularly successful because we were able to get through some of the larger portions of the drawing. And when you do this, it's kind of neat because it kind of blocks in it makes the drawing start to appear in many cases. Now if you got like a grid line, and I had to draw pretty heavy-handed on my grid lines when I was doing the prep work, but if it won't go away, you got to just get that sharp point of that pencil right into that grid line and really just color right down the line, and it should go away, or most of it will go away. But it is frustrating part of this type of drawing. So I'm going to just keep on working for a few more minutes. I would be that kid in art class that I have to tell them to put their stuff away and go to their next class because I got other kids coming in from another class, you know. And so it'd still be color. I'm like, go! And bell's about to ring. They're already late to their next class. That would probably be me, because I like to get my projects done. I don't know how I'd do in that next class though. I must not want to rush to it if that would be the way I was behaving. However, you know, I've got kids that, you know, you've got to almost literally grab them and take their pencils away from them sometimes, and because they're enthusiastic participants in the class. Okay, what I'm going to do is just keep coloring until I run out of green colored pencil, and that's when I'm going to declare it a session for the day. See, we can't really do that in a typical classroom. We have, you know, limitations on time. It's the one resource that we can never seem to get any more of around school, you know. And it's a very precious amount of time that the instructors and the teachers and the administrators get to interact with the students as well. So it's really important to make the best use we got of time and materials that we've got here. So speaking of materials, I'm about to run out of that green colored pencil. Trying to find that little corner on it so I don't scratch the artwork if I can avoid it, and it's starting to run out. And also, you know, when you're doing this random technique too, it kind of reveals things. It makes it look more natural sometimes, especially on mountains and things. Mountains that have got, you know, probably trees on them. Alright, I think that's about it. I can't really squeeze any more ketchup out of this bottle, I guess. It looks like it's about done there. Okay, well, that's a session. Let's see what we got. It's looking pretty good there, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a highly successful one so far. Next session, want to make major progress again. I predict a couple of sessions from now, this project will be done, ready for grading. So thanks for your attention. I'll talk to you next time. Have a good day.